Okay, so let's get the obvious out of the way first. There's no way the Pokemon Company would lend their iconic creatures to Monster Hunter so we can butcher a Pikachu for a new pair of pants. But I'm not here to argue whether or not it'll happen, but rather, the Pokemon Company and Capcom are cowards for not making it happen. There are no bigger monster-centric series on the bloody planet than Pokemon and Monster Hunter, and both aren't exactly strangers to crossovers. Monster Hunter has grubby Palico paw prints all over quite a lot of major franchises, from Smash Bros to Final Fantasy. Pokemon, on the other hand, rarely if ever lends out their creatures to other game universes, but does make a lot of spin-offs that borrow from the likes of the Mystery Dungeon games, that you may or may not have known wasn't originally Pokemon. There was also Pokemon Conquest, which was based on Nobunaga's ambition. It was by far the most out-of-left turf field crossover we've gotten, and I absolutely loved it. I mean, Legends Arceus copied Monster Hunter's notes a little bit too, and Capcom stole the Pokemon formula for the Monster Hunter Stories games. So you can't really blame me for wanting this, right? The pieces are here, but both companies haven't fit them together because lopping off a Charizard's tail with a Switch Axe isn't something Pokemon will ever allow. But it can't hurt to dream. Like, the lineup of monsters in Monster Hunter Wilds all have great Pokemon analogs. Chatacabras resemble Lickitungs or Politoads, Steelix and Badahara have a lot in common, series staple Rathalos is basically a Charizard, Anjanath and Tyrantrum look like not-so-distant cousins, and I'm pretty sure Wild's flagship monster, Arcveld, is just a Kyurem in disguise. The first title update for Wild, scheduled for this April, is bringing with it Mitsutune. So while I'd never expect a full Monster Hunter game with only Pokemon to hunt from Capcom, I'll forever lament the fact that we'll never get a massive realistic Garchomp at some point. Of all Pokemon I can think of, Garchomp would translate best into the Monster Hunter universe, right? It wouldn't be the first jet engine themed monster, Valstrax is one of my favorites, and it would fit incredibly well into the Windfall Plains biome. Aside from smaller key Pokemon like Meowth that could maybe work as your Palico buddy, I think a ton of Pokemon would fit into Monster Hunter well if like sized up and redesigned to look a bit more realistically monstrous. With the exception of maybe anthropomorphic Pokemon, I mean, as a former VGC player, I'd love nothing more than to get Big Bang Hammer combos off into an Incineroar's face. But unless its design was dramatically changed, I don't think it'd be a good fit for Monster Hunter. Same goes for Pokemon like Machamp, though I can see like bulkier bipedalmon such as Magmortar working well. It's not too different from an Ajarakan after all. I have very strong opinions about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, the most recent Pokemon games, but the prehistoric Paradox Pokemon they introduced would all translate incredibly well into Monster Hunter, especially like Slitherwing and Gouging Fire. Many Mega Evolutions look like they belong in Monster Hunter already, including Mega Aggron and Mega Swampert. The mechanic is also making a return in Pokemon Legends ZA, clearly a perfect time for a crossover if the Pokemon Company weren't so cowardly. Personally, my favorite Pokemon is Cubone, so I'd love to see a massive Marowak rampaging through the Windward Plains. Other monsters like Bishaten use tools after all, so why not a massive Bone Club? Hell, I'd even settle for an Ursaluna skin for Doshaguma here. I know, this is all very wishful thinking. The Pokemon Company doesn't want us butchering Pokemon, and though I don't think Capcom would say no, we'll never get one of the most hyped crossovers in video game history, because they're cowards. Anyway, what Pokemon do you think would make the best addition to Monster Hunter Wilds? With over 1,000 Pokemon now, I definitely missed some solid choices, so I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. I'll do my very best to reply to everyone. And if you enjoyed this quick and dirty video, I mostly put it together to test my new capture card, consider shooting me a like and maybe even a subscribe. I'm a freelance game critic and often get games early, turning the footage I take into fun little videos like this one or into something more like my last video, which was a huge critique of Monster Hunter Wilds' story that has a lot of people in the comments upset with me. Anyway, your support would mean so much. Thanks, bye.